Tuesday is my night.
Talk to me.
First is Ellen's Game of Games, followed by This Is Us.
Ooh, this is a big one. Long-lost memories will be revealed, plus secrets from the past.
Followed by New Amsterdam.
Oh, Dr. Max.
Okay, then.
Tonight on NBC.
And
think there's no reason to stay up until 11? Let's do the math. 4 radars, more choppers, and this team equals more coverage at 11. Chuck, Colleen, Fritz, Fred. Call on these 4 before you call it a night. NBC 4 News at 11.
Blog Talk Radio.
Howdy, folks. How are you doing? I hope you are well, and we are here in our lovely city of Harlem to talk about all things Harlem and, around the block, around the world, which has always been our axiom and obviously continues to be. And, I had someone talked to me the other day and said, well, Tisdale, you used to talk about what's trending on the website and this and that. And, I said, not talking about that gives me more time to, speak to our guests. So this is the way I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to tell you 2 things I'm not going to talk about today. I'm not going to talk about Harlem resident Roger Stone, and I'm not going to talk about, The second thing is so controversial, I'm not going to even bring it up, but it does have to do with B. Smith, and that's all I'm going to say. Folks, hit us up. If you want to get the details on what I just talked about, go to our website at harlemworldmagazine.com. Also on our social network at twitter.com/HWMag. Somebody told me I'd say it too fast, so I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Also, you can hit us up at Facebook at facebook.com. Harlem World Magazine, or at HWMag. Like us, share us, and if you really want to be spoiled by the show, sponsor us. But let's get right into it. And I'm talking to one of the guests I always love talking to, because we're talking about Harlem history and all the things that come with it, is Glenn Hunter, and he is the founder, along with co-founders of Harlem Cultural Archives. He is co-founder and co-executive director, along with other co-founders, Ken Sargent and his brother, Keith Hunter. He didn't say his big brother or little brother, so brother, Keith Hunter. Glenn is a career educator. I love educators. Specializes in math and information technology. In addition, he is an adjunct lecturer at Baruch College and a tireless community organizer and someone that the Danny Tisdale Show loves having on the show. Hey, Glenn, how are you doing?
Pretty good, Danny. How you doing?
I'm doing good. As I kind of teased you a little bit before, I just want to make sure that we do not talk about that Super Bowl game. I don't want to talk about it. So
okay, I promise I won't say a word.
Okay, don't do that. Can you tell us, Glenn, before we get started, I did a real quick intro. Tell us real quickly in a couple of minutes about the Harlem Cultural Archives and what you do.
Oh, thank you, Danny. Thank you for having me. We've been in doing business for probably the last 10 or 11 years. We started out going around interviewing some of the elders who to get firsthand information about some of the hidden stories of Harlem. So what it really started out was at a reunion in the Riverton several years back, I'd say in 1997 or so. Ken Sargent and I were just looking around at all the people who we knew, not just who lived in Riverton, but who hung out there and who had friends there. I said, there's a lot of stories to tell here. We have a lot of talent, and there's a lot of things that we really need to share and and preserve and make sure that the world knows that there are quite a few folks who made their major contributions while living in Harlem, and I think that's what kind of got us started. So we've been gathering video interviews for the last 10 years or so. We even started a West Harlem Oral History project that's online. I'll give you the information on that later. And we've sponsored panel discussions in the past. One was about Percy Sutton and Basil Patterson, and Charlie Rangel and Dave Dinkins and Roscoe Brown were on the panel. We did another panel discussion about Kenneth and Mamie Clark. at City College to talk about their work in the Northside Center. And coming up, we're going to have a screening of something called The Men of Bronze, a film by Bill Miles documenting the history of the 369th as they returned from World War I. And we're going to have...
Fabulous.
That's going to happen on the 23rd of this month.
Oh, great.
So that's the kind of thing that we're doing. Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say, and that's exactly the kind of things that should be done during Black History Month, even though we know that Black History is 12 months of the year and not just one. But that is some really, really good programming. And I wanted to also, Glenn, ask you, who has inspired you to have this interest in history in general, but more specifically in Harlem history, if there was someone or something, or was it Harlem that did the inspiring?
Well, it's a combination of things. Growing up here and being able to be around folks like Percy Sutton and
mm-hmm.
Dave Dinkins and Charlie Rangel, but not just them, but some of the institutions like the Minnesink Center and Kennedy Center,
mm-hmm.
the Harlem
Y.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Just growing up around there with all these institutions. In addition, my mother was a librarian. So she was born and raised in Harlem, so she was like an information person. And
that doesn't hurt.
And she gathered, she was like a collector. My uncle's a collector. He has like 5 photo albums of Duke Ellington alone, and there's some of the Apollo information.
That's
so,
a fan.
At the dinner table, or just sitting around, they would talk about, this person. Oh yeah, I know when Marcus Garvey used to come down my block. Things like that. So it just reminded me that, hey, a lot of the press that we got, didn't include, a lot of the positive things that were done. So that's what really inspired me to really want to make sure that, our story is told. But again, not just one, but a lot my mother had to do with it because she was very much into Harlem, and she lived here all her life. I've lived here all my life, so that's something that something to be proud of. You know what I'm saying? That's
in the roots. Most
mm-hmm.
definitely. Was your mother born in Harlem?
Yes, she was. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So was my father.
That's
my
right.
father too. He grew up in the Dunbar house.
Through and through. I love it. I
mm-hmm.
love it. And Glenn, we're always talking about fleeting Harlem history. We've done a series of photographs that we posted on the site in our Harlem World collection of these, architectural details that are, disappearing, with new construction, or they're falling and have to be demolished because of, the structural problems. What can people, do? Where can they go to support, the history of, this great community of ours that has this, incredible long history? What can people, small things, in the middle, or big things? Or what can people do? I'm just curious,
Well, first thing that comes to mind
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, first thing that comes to mind are the community boards. Okay, they have a historic preservation. They have meetings every month, and Community Board 11, Community Board 10, Community Board 9, all cover Harlem, and just getting involved in those meetings, keeping track of what's going on, with regard to historic preservation, and in addition, I was thinking about, not just that, but patronizing some of the local, arts, like theater, for example. A good friend of mine, Vosa Rivers, does something called New Heritage Theater, and usually the arts is a reflection of the history at the time, and he does a great job of characterizing the things that were going on. One of the things he just did was when Harlem saved Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah, I also. Went to an event where David Dinkins's Marine Corps was honored, and it was written by Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Jonathan Mitchell. So So I think, patronizing these community works is another one. Some of their displays, some of their theater, and now that's the kind of way to support, the history, because, obviously the arts is based on our history. So I think that's another way of doing it. Going to local bookstores, you know what I mean? Going to the bookstores and getting books and taking your children, and those sort of things I think will help protect the history, because if there's demand for it, then there will be, ways to answer questions. That's what, Roscoe Brown said, we want to have people be able to get the answer to certain questions about it. So, being active about it and making sure that I'm even pushing in my school and local community history. A good friend of mine, Herb Boyd, says, a lot of the Black Studies departments, rightfully so, recognize the African diaspora and are bringing them to speak. But, right around the block, they had some people that did some amazing things, and, our kids need to know about it, like right up the street, So that's one way I think we can help protect it, in that sort of a way, and support it at the same time,
Yeah, and those are very good points, and especially, the simple point where, you never know that your neighbor or someone on the block, has been on that block for years, and that is, part of Harlem history. What they've experienced, what has happened while they've been there. They've heard about what they saw. And as you said, also, I think, places like the Schomburg, where, this incredible collection of material that they have, that's been donated to them, just speaks volumes to that. Were you always interested in history when you were in school, or was it something, when you were younger? I know you said, at one point you were with your mother. Was it always that way, or were you at some point in your life you said?
Yeah,
so,
in the immediate.
Glenn, you were one of those guys that said, "I'm too cool for history."
No, because
I don't do that.
Because working in the corporate America, downtown, every now and then, people would talk about Harlem, and you'd hear them say, "Oh, well, blah blah blah. This is what our perception of Harlem is." And I said, "Well, I live there, and I can tell you that I lived across the street from the Manhattan Borough President and the mayor, and further down, this person did this, and so and so. So that's the type of thing that I was always proud to say I'm from Harlem. I'm not Upper Manhattan. I'm Harlem. And that's I say it without stuttering. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just agreeing.
I constantly was trying to say, look, where did you get the information from? Okay, well, I'm telling you from what I know, and there's things that I don't know, and I've had to find out from time to time. There were things, and one of my historian friends, his name is LaRue Lewis at City College. He said Harlem is a lot of things going on, and thank God for people like you who are letting people know about it. Like Harlem World Magazine. This is something that gives you pride when you know that there were some things, besides everybody knows James Baldwin, everybody knows Langston Hughes, but there were other things like what about, the fire department over here, and this institution, like I said, like Kennedy Center, Community Center, or the Menacing Townhouse, places like that, have some history there too. So I think
and just tons of it. That's what's so amazing to me is that there is just tons of history in this little on this little island at the top of Manhattan. And very quickly, Glenn, I just want to let folks know that they're listening to Harlem World Radio, and it's the Danny Tisdale Show, and of course that's who I am. And number one company in the world for all things Harlem since 2003. And if you want to sponsor the show, don't forget to contact us at harlemworldinfo@yahoo. And we're right back here with Harlem historian Glenn Hunter. And Mr. Hunter is from Harlem Cultural Archives. And Glenn, I want to get right back to it and ask you a question. So the second half was kind of a general question. So, Glenn, I'm going to use this section for maybe it's the Harlem History Challenge, let's say. Glenn, how come we don't celebrate Harlem history with a Harlem history event, or do we? And I just don't know about it.
With regard to Harlem history, I'm not aware of any one particular.
Just celebrating all of Harlem's birthday when it was. My files have September 1658. I could be wrong, but
no, I think you're very close. Yeah.
We don't do something like that.
Yes, and it's like I said, it's puzzling why we don't. I wish I had an answer for that, but I think if one thing that is happening and I'm trying to get involved with is a celebration of the Harlem Renaissance. This is the 100th anniversary, and Borough President Gail Brewer and one of her folks who runs the Harlem office, Athena Moore, has been taking up a challenge to, make sure that there's proper recognition of this historic time, and so I think that's a start. If we can just, tell the world that, when these heroes from World War I came back to came back home and marched up Fifth Avenue, and
could you imagine? Wow,
this was the Renaissance of us having a different image as opposed to the step and fetch it sort of a thing, and I think that there was a play, and the name escapes me of the play. I think it was Shuffle Along. I'm not sure what it was, but there was a play that was one of the start of showing us in a positive role as a result of coming back from World War One. Starting I'm trying to think, was UB Blake? I'm just having a senior moment. Please forgive me.
We may be doing a cold moment because I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
So something like that could be a start to say, hey, this was really when we said, you know what, we're going to let everybody know that we were part of this part of this World War I, and we were heroes, and our sisters, our women were nurses, and they played a role. And coming back, we had our chest up a little bit, and we say, check this out. We're going to let everybody know that this is who we are, and we're going to let the world know this is how we expect to be treated. You know what I mean? So
that's right. And we had that Wakanda moment way before the movie. We were kind of pulling open those shirts and saying, Wakanda long before the movie. So, I just want to make sure people, understand that and put that in their notes when they're talking about, Black Pride and all the other pride that we have.
Sure. So, James Van Der Zee had a collection of decorated soldiers. I mean, I can go on and on. I just want to go off on a tangent on that, but I think something like that could get us, saying, well, there's other things to celebrate as well. Maybe we can start with this initiative of the 100th anniversary of the Renaissance. You know what I mean? So we
most definitely, and I like that. And Glenn, I did a little research before the show, and I've got two other reasons why I think this is my big vision for the beginning of the 2019 is a Harlem History Museum right on 125th Street. And then, but wait a minute. I've got some more for you.
Go ahead.
Is that kick it off with Kennedy's PT-59 that I read was in the Harlem River at 208th Street, and that Marcus Garvey's SS Shadyside is also in the Harlem River. So I'm saying, Glenn, if you take your that $1 million that you have set aside in the bank that you're using probably for your son's trust or daughter's trust or whoever, that we use that to start the museum with those two objects.
Yeah, that that would be wonderful, man. I like you said, I've had my grandfather used to tell me about Marcus Garvey and his where he was on the Harlem River. He had his boat over there.
Right.
But that part about Kennedy, I didn't know that. But like I said, we really need to have that type of a museum. And interestingly enough, I've been looking for some space to have a research center for Harlem. Really different from the museum, which is a physical space.
Right.
As part of that, we would be interested in, getting donations of people who have books on Harlem. Please don't throw them away. Let us have them. Let people come in.
I know,
like the old Schomburg downstairs, you could borrow, you could look at it, you can make copies of it. You couldn't take it, and also to help let people digitize some of their memorabilia and artifacts. Okay, so say you have some family history, Harlem-related sort of thing. The Smithsonian does that. That's something I think that museum would have as a piece of it, could make it really wonderful. You know what I mean? And
most definitely.
So that idea, we've been talking about it. Even Roscoe Brown said, "You want to start a museum?" I said that would be great, but I think starting with like a research center and expanding into that, would probably make a whole lot of sense. And again, the whole idea of a historical society is to promote the study. How can we make it easy for people to learn about their history, without having to, heaven forbid, go to the library and take a book out. But let me stop.
Well,
stop.
Glenn, we don't want them going to the library and checking out books. Come on, man. What's going on here?
I had the kids would tell me, my students say, "That's mad work, mister." So.
Yeah. God forbid we want them to do mad work. I mean, that's going way too far to have them go to a library. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I am so in love with, history, and those two, the Shady Side and the P-259 was just one of those stories that, I just, heard about, kind of in a whisper, and then I just, put in, thank God for Google. I put the search in. It's like, well, okay, I didn't know that. And, they're talking about the Kennedy's PT-59 is, what did they say in one of the, somewhere in Inwood, so pretty incredible. But even more incredible is that there is so much history in Harlem that is still with us, let alone the history that, knock on wood, that we have, not been lucky enough to, keep and nourish and, present to the public, whether it's residents or people who are visiting. So most definitely.
And one thing I wanted to emphasize, Danny, multicultural history, okay,
yes.
of Harlem. That's
great
key.
Point. Great point.
You know what I mean? It has to be multicultural, and because, my parents grew up in like near the Dunbar. They had, Caucasian friends and relatives, and like that was the neighborhood, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of history from a multicultural standpoint, Jewish, Irish, the whole bit.
Right.
So we got to make sure
Glenn, thank you for that, because and I know that we're not talking about, black history to exclude any other history, but I think your point is extremely well taken, that, we're just talking about African American history because that's, at least I am, because that's who I am. It doesn't negate anyone else's history. And, all that history is extremely important because, for Harlem World Magazine, we do include all of Harlem history because we have a global audience, so most definitely. But I think you putting, words to that is different. And I love history so much that my girlfriend likes to, stop me from digging stuff, out of the trash because I think it's historical. And she's like, no, that's trash. You know? So, you know, I get that. You know, and Glenn, we are, you know, at that moment I knew that was going to come quickly, and we're here. Sure. And I just want to, and that's why I wanted to stop a little early and give you a chance to give our listeners, our readers, because we're going to obviously post this on the website, you know, your contact information, and then any information where they can, you know, donate, volunteer if you take volunteers, and support the work that you do.
Okay, the website now has a donate button. It's Harlem Cultural, one word, .org. That's our website. My email address is harlemculturalarchives@gmail.com, and that's probably the best way to get in touch with us. So okay. Between those two, and we even can get messages from the website as well. Again, it's Harlem Cultural, one word, .org, and the website is harlemculturalarchives@gmail. And we definitely have a page on Facebook. It's Harlem Cultural Archives, and we're constantly posting things there. We welcome people to come on and share. And I'm going to be posting that particular invitation to the screening of The Men of Bronze again. It should be. I'll post it again to make sure people see it on our website.
And that's February 23rd, right?
February 23rd from around 1 to...
And where's that going to be?
PS 197. It's 2230 Fifth Avenue, and it's PS 197 John B. Westrum School. I was in the very first kindergarten class in 1956, and it turns out that all of the major trustees went to that school, so they made it available for us, and we're so happy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we'll even have some light refreshments at the end. We'll have a Q&A, and we'll show the film by Bill Miles about the returning heroes from World War I. I think it's to be very informative for folks, and I'm looking forward to it.
That's fantastic, Glenn. We're going to post that on the website, and I just want to let the public know and let you know, by way of everyone listening, if, you know, any way that we can support the work that you're doing with your nonprofit and the work, and more importantly, with Harlem History, you know, reach out to me, to us, and we'll do that. We're going to post, as I said, information regarding the event on the 23rd, and you know, we love having you on the show, and we'll reach back to you more times to come. Thanks, Glenn, for being on the show. And
well,
really
thank you for having me, Danny. It's always a pleasure talking with you, brother. Always a pleasure.
And same here. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks again, Glenn Hunter, for being on the show from Harlem Cultural Archives. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Danny. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Well, folks, another great show and another great guest. Well, you know, it was a great. It was an okay show, but a great guest. And I want to thank you for listening in, and give your support to the folks at Harlem Cultural Archives with Glenn Hunter and the other guys that are a part of it, and support Harlem History. Don't forget that you can also check out our Harlem History page, Harlem World Magazine's history page, at Harlem History on Facebook. Just put it in and you'll find it. Or go to our website and click our Facebook page, and that'll take you right there. I'm sorry, our Harlem History page, and that'll take you right there. And don't forget that you can sponsor this show, with our global audience in Harlem, the United States, and around the world. Go to our podcast page right there at HarlemWorldMagazine.com. and check out the numbers, and then give us a call and sponsor the show, and connect to our thousands of listeners around the world. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Tuesday is my night.
Talk to me.
First is Ellen's Game of Games, followed by This Is Us.
Ooh, this is a big one. Long-lost memories will be revealed, plus secrets from the past.
Followed by New Amsterdam.
Oh, Dr. Max.
Okay, then.
Tonight on NBC.
And
think there's no reason to stay up until 11? Let's do the math. 4 radars, more choppers, and this team equals more coverage at 11. Chuck, Colleen, Fritz, Fred. Call on these 4 before you call it a night. NBC 4 News at 11.
Tuesday is my night.
Talk to me.
First is Ellen's Game of Games, followed by This Is Us.
Ooh, this is a big one. Long-lost memories will be revealed, plus secrets from the past.
Followed by New Amsterdam.
Oh, Dr. Max.
Okay, then.
Tonight on NBC.
And
Think there's no reason to stay up until 11? Let's do the math. 4 radars, more choppers, and this team equals more coverage at 11. Chuck, Colleen, Fritz, Fred. Call on these 4 before you call it a night. NBC 4 News at 11.